Hello, welcome to my latest video. It's about tips and help on when you stop drinking alcohol. Should preface this by is suggested that people never just stop drinking alcohol. If you're used to drinking it on a regular basis in a large amount, it can be extremely dangerous to just stop drinking alcohol. But obviously the oxymoron in that is, as alcoholics, how can you, if you say to yourself, I'm just going to have one bottle of wine tonight or drink the half the usual amount that I usually do, it doesn't happen, does it? Because we don't know when to stop, and one drink or one bottle is, more than often never enough. So it's very, very difficult to get to that stage. Now, me personally, I was sort of forced into it. I'll go into do a video down the line about my story. I'm certainly part of it, but for me, I was drinking very heavily, but it wasn't every single day. It was about 4 days a week. But the amount I was consuming in one go was just horrific. So when I stopped, I was basically in a position where I was taken to the hospital by the police, and then I was taken into this is the first time I stopped before I relapsed, into a mental health facility, where I had nurses and doctors looking after me, basically. So obviously I was not drinking alcohol anymore. Luckily didn't have too many side effects from that, and they were obviously monitoring me constantly by taking my blood pressure, examining me, and observing me to make sure that my withdrawals weren't having a physical effect on my body, which can be obviously a huge danger. I'm trying to think, the second time was a very similar situation, but I was more detained in a regular hospital setting. And that time, yeah, pretty much similar sort of thing. I was observed and stuff, and I think you get to a wall where, when you've hit rock bottom, you don't want to drink. So it wasn't like I was climbing the walls looking for a way to have a drink, which isn't always the case. But yeah, back to it though. So you want to cut down gradually, and it's just phenomenally difficult. I tried it in the past, and I was luckily able to come off it without any side effects. So ultimately, it's up to you what you do. But I would strongly advise you be drinking a lot to try and taper it down somehow. You might be best off doing it like drinking less frequently and lowering the amount gradually like that. So instead of drinking every day or 4 days a week, you cut the amount of days that you drink down. Just over a period of time, your body's getting less alcohol in its system. Now, on a practical level, alcohol is full of sugar. It doesn't matter what alcoholic drink it is, whether you think it's one that has lots of sugar in it, say wine, you think, oh, it's got more sugar in it than beer or gin. The alcohol itself in every alcoholic drink is packed full of sugar. It's made out of sugar and yeast and whatever else. It depends on what alcohol it is, but it's made out of sugar, basically. So you're drinking loads of sugar. So when you stop consuming that vast amount of sugar, your body is craving it. It's used to getting all this sugar. It's what's using for energy. It affects every part of your body. So by having sugary drinks like full fat Coke, which is an absolute treat for me, sugary snacks, that kind of thing, it replaces the amount of sugar that your body is expecting to be getting from the alcohol, and it just calms down that anxious feeling, that feeling of when you're on edge, and it even calms down your anxiety because your mind and your body is not craving this thing that's sugar, and your mind's thinking, well, I usually get my sugar from alcohol. Let's go have alcohol. So you're replacing that sugar. Now, obviously, sugar is incredibly unhealthy, but it's only temporary. Do you know what I mean? And I would much rather have a high sugar diet than being an alcoholic. Now, when I say lots of sugar, I don't mean like drink 10 cans of Coke because you used to drink 10 cans of lager. I just mean like have a can of Coke on an evening. If you're normal routine, getting from work, you're going to neck 2 or 3 bottles of wine or whatever you have for, or whatever. Sit there and have a can of Coke instead, or whatever full sugar drink, and maybe a chocolate bar or something like that. And it works. It's replacing the sugar in your thing. Another thing that helps is thiamine, which is a B vitamin. I was actually prescribed some from the doctor when I first went for help with my alcoholism. Does it work or not? I didn't really notice a difference, but then my withdrawals and mental state wasn't too bad, so maybe it did work. Because I don't know the difference because I didn't try it without. So it was prescribed by a doctor, but basically a high strength vitamin B complex available on Amazon or something will do the same thing. And it's because alcohol just slowly just starts turning your brain to mush, and it just dulls the receptors in your brain. You might have heard of the term wet brain. It's you know it pickles your brain basically, and this vitamin B helps to sort of get things back on track. As I say, I don't know how effective it is, but there's nothing to lose apart from probably a tenner to buy in some high quality vitamin B complex, or even just go to your doctor and ask for it, and they'll give you it on prescription, I guess. But yeah, easy to buy online, quite cheap. So yeah, it's those two things that really help me physically when stopping drinking alcohol. Now, the next thing that is quite difficult is your environment, because we talked in my last video about changing the routine, things you can do that aren't your usual routine when you're drinking or just throughout the day. Now, you've got to change your environment, and that is incredibly difficult, because when I stopped finally, a couple of years ago for the last time, we'd since got married, but my girlfriend at the time, we lived together, she didn't really drink. She drank like a normal person, so at special occasions, every now and again, maybe a bit in the run up to Christmas kind of thing. And it was me encouraging her to drink. She started drinking more regularly, but she's just not had a drop of alcohol since I stopped drinking as well. So, and obviously I'm not put that on her. It's her own, if she wanted to, she could, but I just know how more difficult it would be for me if I had alcohol in the house, or there's alcohol in the fridge because it's her alcohol that she was going to drink. Even if she was just having a glass of wine a night, or a glass of wine on a Friday night, just that alcohol in the house sort of makes it subconsciously, subliminally thinking, oh, it's okay. Yeah, it's and you sat there and they're drinking a glass of wine and you're watching a movie together on a Friday night and you're not. You start, you start with all them thoughts. This is unfair, and all this kind of thing. At the same time, it's not for me or for us to tell other people what to do. Do you know what I mean? But it's incredibly easier if your partner, your close one, your wife or husband or whatever, agrees not to drink around you, or even better, just stops drinking with you. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to not ever drink ever again if they're not got a problem with alcohol. That's absolutely fine. Just say it could even be temporary. For a short bit, next couple of months, would you mind not drinking around me? If you're gonna have a drink, go out to the pub, meet a friend or something like that, or when I'm going out or doing something, have a drink then. Please, it's easier said than done, and some partners are more stubborn than others, some are less supportive than others, but I believe, if you're with somebody, they should have that level of understanding and support in the relationship, and it would be really helpful for them to do that for you. Now, another thing you should do is have a regular support network. Now, this is vitally important. I come across loads of people in Facebook groups about stopping drinking, and they've gone a week, 2 weeks, and I'm saying to them, well, what support have you got? What's happened? I'm doing it by myself. And some people almost see it like a badge of honor that they're doing it by themselves. And you know what? I've known people. I've got a good friend. Drinking was disrupting his life. He's dependent on alcohol, causing awful problems in his life, and he managed to stop just like that. I was running a support group. He came to it. He just stopped drinking that day. The day before, 2 days before, he stopped drinking. And he hasn't had a drink since. So we went for a nice walk the other week. And it's some people can do that. I just have that willpower. It's when they stop smoking, I don't smoke anymore. You know what I mean? Some people go on the vape, some people go on the gum, some people smoke less, they smoke lights, whatever. And some people can just stop cold turkey, and they've got that willpower in them, and they can do it. And that is absolutely tremendous. But most amount of people who are dependent on alcohol, that doesn't happen. So it's important to have support around you. And by that, I mean a constant source of help that you can turn to. Now, there will be sober groups in your area It may involve a little bit of travelling. You know, as long as it's within half an hour, get to a support group in your area, and guarantee you there will be an alcohol support group in the area. There's also AA, of course, which is a different video I'm going to do later on. There's also AA you can do. There's also like support groups on Facebook, and you can try and build a rapport or latch onto somebody who's got some sobriety, and you can message them back and forth, talk to them. Sometimes it's a lot easier to talk to a stranger. You can open up and find things about your life because they don't live near you. They're not going to tell anybody what you've said because they don't even know who you know. That's a good one as well. But you need that constant support to do it, and it also, somebody knows what you're going through because they've been through it themselves. It's a level of accountability. If you're talking to somebody every single day about stuff, it'll just stop when you reach for that. If you reach for that bottle again, have a moment of weakness, it's somebody you can reach out to and just message or call and just talk you down. Do you know what I mean? And it's got that, as I say, it's got that accountability. You don't want to let the other person down. For me, I don't want to let my wife down. Do you know what I mean? That's probably the most important thing to me. And it's not about her being bossy or controlling. I don't want to upset her and put her through stuff that I put her through previously. And I just know that if I have one drink, that's where it's gonna lead. So there's some practical things you can do. Obviously, you can go to your GP. They can prescribe like mood stabilizers, diazepam, stuff like that. It can just take the edge off when you're feeling a bit anxious, especially when you're first quitting. Alcohol masks so many mental health issues, and poor mental health may even be the crutch that why you've been drinking so much. Like what was for me, masking mental health issues, undiagnosed problems. It's a bit of escapism. Get drunk, forget the world, don't you? You're in your own different planet. So that's a really, really important one. Get some medication, just get sober for a few weeks and just think, right, how's my mental health? And you think, I'm cracking up here, my anxiety's through the roof, I'm depression, you're facing life on equal terms here now. You no longer got this crutch of alcohol, this drug making everything good. You've got to face life head on, man. And we've all had stuff that's happened in the past or problems we've got to deal with and problems that will come up in the future. It's about handling them while sober. So there's no shame in having some extra support. So, your GP will throw antidepressants at you anyway, and bit of diazepam or something like that just to get you through anxious times. There's no harm in that. It's not swapping one addiction for another because you're not getting addicted to bloody antidepressants here. So it's just help out. It's what it's there for. I mean, they can also refer you to like community sober groups where you get a caseworker. You can go to like a course and stuff like that. But these things take a long time. It's like we're talking, depends on the area, but you're generally talking over a month to 6 weeks, if not longer, to get on these courses. And even if you get into a caseworker, for me, a few years ago, mine wasn't very reliable, and the whole thing I didn't find helpful. I found it very sort of felt talked down to. They didn't understand. Very sort of textbook, basic sort of things. But it's a tool you can use, and what doesn't work for me might work for you. It's all free. We've got nothing to lose. It just costs a bit of time to go and check these things out, and you may learn a few things that's going to help you. And again, accountability into it. That next week you got an appointment with your caseworker. Week after that, you got your course that you're starting, and the course is going to continue. You get chatting to a couple of people at the course, come acquaintances, swap numbers. Next thing you know, you got a group chat going, you're supporting each other, and that's what it's about. So that's a great tool as well. So just a few things we can practically do when we stop drinking alcohol, but ultimately it's about breaking a routine and distraction. That's what's going to help you, to be honest. Evaluate your life. Get sober for a few weeks. Just evaluate your life. Am I happy? I'm not advocating anybody leaves their partners or something, but if you're in an unhappy relationship or an unhealthy relationship where they're still necking a bottle of vodka every day and you're trying to get sober because alcohol's ruining your life, your health, your finances, everything, you only got one life. That's all. You know what I mean? That's all I'm going to say. You only got one life. You It's not up to me to say, but you know, we got to get yourself out of situations to get better. So you got to look at the big picture, and you know, when we're drinking out, this is one I live by this mantra. Yeah, before I'm going to finish on this one, when we're drinking, we're so self-centered, so egotistical. Everything about us, everything we think about is when we can have the next drink. We manipulate situations so when we can have our next drink, when we can go to the shop. We manipulate finances. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't buying my family food or enough food for the week because I needed that for 30, 40 quid to buy my alcohol for the weekend. That's how selfish I was. I'd go for a day out somewhere with my family and I wanted to be back as soon as possible. Why? Because I knew there were beers waiting in the fridge for me to start drinking, and I needed to start drinking at a certain time, early afternoon, otherwise I wouldn't be pissed enough for the rest of the day and wouldn't have had enough alcohol in my body that would have satisfied my cravings or satisfied my thinking or the way that I was. So, do you know what I mean? So we got to be how selfish we were then, be that selfish as we are in sobriety. Do you know what I mean? Fuck other people off. Look after yourself, yeah? Friends and all that go, you know, I'm gonna meet all my friends, go down pub, blah blah blah. They ain't paying your bills when you lose your job. They ain't buying you, you know what I mean? They ain't visiting you in prison. It might sound a bit drastic, but they ain't visiting you in hospital either. They ain't donating you a liver when you need a new liver. Man. Okay, thank you for watching. I got a bit passionate there. Please subscribe if you can. There's 9 subscribers at the minute. Let's get up to double figures at least. Be number 10 for me, please. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.